Hello. What was the best investment you've made in the last 5 years? I've been asking this question to friends, family, and strangers, and their answers fall into one of two categories: finances or physical health. This is a problem. The best investment is an investment in your emotional health. Admittedly, this is strange advice coming from someone who spent 27 years in the financial industry. But those years gave me a front row seat to witness the dangers of emotional investing. As a bond trader, I was taught that my decisions were based on facts and data. There was no room for personal feelings and emotions on the trading desk. Heading up a client services team, I understood the importance of educating investors to think long term, to diversify investments, and to seek professional advice, all as ways to reduce fears and to reduce the risk of rash investment decisions, especially in times of uncertainty. You see, emotions color everything that we do, whether we are aware of or ignore them. Here's a simple example. You forgot to set the alarm. You wake in a panic, adrenaline rush. You jump out of bed, heart pounding, and then the mental chatter begins. Oh, I'm always late. My boss is going to be so angry. You see, emotions are part biology and part story. Maybe you noticed in that example the mixture of the two. Most of us only know enough about the biology of emotions to understand the fight, flight, freeze response to fear. Yet there is so much value in understanding just a little bit more. I'd like to share 3 points with you that I've learned from the science of positive psychology that have actually changed my life. Now, I'm not a scientist or a therapist. This is coming from my own experience, having gathered as much as I could about the science of emotions from the people that research it, and then putting it into practice, sometimes with the help of my therapist. So, did you know that you're not supposed to stuff emotions and keep them there? I'm from New England. Emotions were not encouraged, expressed, and certainly not talked about. My emotions found their voice in my diary, and that thing, it came with a lock and a key. It turns out that emotions are meant to be fleeting. They are energy in motion. It is this stunningly intricate design that allows us to take information in through our senses and quickly discern whether to move toward or run away from. How quickly? Neuroscientist Jill Bolte Taylor tells us it's 90 seconds. Okay, so right when she told us to count to 10. Taylor's research shows that the chemical and physiological effects of an emotion, that adrenaline rush or the rapid heartbeat, it flushes through our system in 90 seconds unless we choose to stay in that emotion. And when we do, it's often story that holds us there. I'm always late. My boss is going to be so angry. The second thing I learned is that our brains have a built-in negativity bias that causes us to focus on bad things. This was our ancestors who survival was always at the forefront of their brain. But our world is not so dangerous. Yet we inherently put more weight on negative experiences than good ones, 3 times more. Psychologist Dr. Rick Hansen tells us adult is a brain that is like Velcro for the negative and Teflon for the positive. Here's the third thing. Positive and negative emotions provide crucial data for us to help us survive. Negative emotions, they help keep us safe. They say their data tells us, hey, something personal and meaningful is out of balance. When we experience a negative emotion, our thought action options are automatically limited so that we can act quickly. Those limited options are based on past experience and old stories. Positive emotions contribute to our survival in a much different way. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson broaden and explains that positive emotions open our perspective and allow us to see more of what's happening in the world, give us more options, and build internal resources in the process. Take, for example, the positive emotion of interest. It's likely what brought you to this talk. Interest fills us with a sense of engagement, allowing us to learn and grow new intellectual resources that change the way we can act and think in the future. So to recap, we have 3 new pieces of information about the biology of our emotions. Emotions are fleeting. Negative, where our brains will hyper-focus on the negative, and positive emotions have a superpower. So let's revisit that earlier example. You forgot to set the alarm. You wake in a panic. And you acknowledge the fact, yep, I'm going to be late for work today. And then you turn your focus for a hot second, which is 90 seconds on the clock, to a positive emotion, like gratitude that you woke up when you did, or that you woke up at all. How might that change the trajectory of your day and the interactions that you have in it? We can use the research of Dr. Hansen to help our own brains by paying attention to the good, the positive experiences that happen all day. Here's the thing. When we pay attention to them, we make them sticky. We lay new neural pathways in our brain, creating new stories that actually change the way that we approach the ups and downs we face in life. It's called positive neuroplasticity, and it doesn't cost a thing. I wish I knew this information 20 years ago when I survived cancer. Back then, there was very little support for cancer survivors to learn how to be alive again, especially in the emotional realm. I was overwhelmed by the tsunami of negative emotions that hit me when my treatment ended. No idea what to do with the anger, the shame of this new body that was carved by cancer, the grief, and the constant fear that cancer would return. I only knew how to stuff my emotions. So instead, sometimes I numbed them with drugs, with prescription drugs or alcohol. Sometimes I distracted being busy or throwing myself into work. And sometimes I channeled my emotional energy into other people. I suffered silently for 15 years until kaboom, the traumatic and emotional end to my marriage. I don't remember what I typed into the search bar on that dark night, but it's how I found an online course called The Science of Happiness. In the glow of my laptop, I took notes until my eyes blurred as I discovered my own emotional biology through the science of positive psychology. I went to sleep that night infused with the inspiration. It allowed me to see my world in a different light and motivated me to begin investing in my emotional health. The payoffs have been extraordinary, and they started right away as I was in the middle of my divorce process. Now, if you've been divorced, you understand it's painful and emotional. If you've experienced betrayal, you understand it can be devastating. I was a mess. I could barely make myself breakfast. Every time I entered that room filled with lawyers, mediators, man I was married to for 25 years, I did so with an inner fierceness that Aretha Franklin wrote songs about. I knew these discussions would determine my financial future and that of my sons. I entered with the awareness that emotions are fleeting, that my brain would hyper-focus on the negative, and that positive emotions had a superpower. I also entered with a plan. When a strong emotion came up, and they did, I would push myself away from the table and turn to get something out of my bag, strategically placed behind me. In that pause, I would allow the emotion to pass. If it didn't, I picked that bag up and I asked for a 5-minute break. In the restroom, I waited for the emotion to pass. And then I splashed water on my face, took some deep breaths, and then shifted my focus on something positive for a long, hot second. Every time I re-entered that room, I felt more open and ready to make decisions about my future. When I left the building, I swear I was 2 inches taller, knowing what it felt like to stand up and be on my own side. Months later, when I exited the courthouse wearing the warm autumn sunshine like a cape, I took a moment to marvel at the return of my own investment. It was my own emotional well-being. My invitation to you is to begin investing in your emotional health today. Stand up, be on your own side, because you are worth investing in. Thank you.